Perfect. Thank you. Okay, well, I think we'll go and get started in the essence of time. So good afternoon. My name is Tom O'Shea, and I serve as the Director of Administrative and Student Services for the Physician Assistant Graduate Program. And so today, we are going to spend some time together looking at the PA program here at the University of Iowa. And so specifically, what we're going to look at is I'm just going to do a general quick overview of the Carver College of Medicine. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the PA program mission. And then the specific topic that I was asked to cover and focus on today is sort of the admissions process. And so I'm just going to go over the admissions variables. I'm going to go over the admissions process. I'm going to go over the interview process, and then wrap it up with some general tips and tricks to sort of keep in mind for the admissions process. And so I'm going to talk about that for about 30 minutes or so. And then we have three current PA students that are in their clinical year on campus. And so they're here to do just sort of a Q&A student panel for the last half hour of today's presentation. So that is what we are going to talk about today. So we do have a Q&A question and answer function. And so feel free to place your questions in there. I will monitor that as I continue throughout my presentation. And then obviously we'll monitor that as well when we go through the student panel portion as well. So let's just start with sort of just a broad overview of UIHC Carver College of Medicine as an entity, because the unique thing about the Carver College of Medicine at the University of Iowa is it's the only college on campus that doesn't sit under the University of Iowa umbrella. We actually sit under the University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics umbrella, and UIHC has a three-part mission. And so you can see the three parts are education, research, and patient care. And so those are the three sort of aspects that UIHC encompasses. And so patient care obviously would be UIHC Stead Family Children Hospital, and then all of the tertiary care centers that they have across the eastern half of the state of Iowa or the state of Iowa. That's primary mission is to provide that high quality primary and specialty care healthcare services to individuals in the state or individuals that come from outside of the state for that care. The second part of that is research. Obviously, there is a large number of research projects and programs that are going on campus on a daily basis that allows individuals to continue to provide a rich amount of research in academic and healthcare knowledge to the system. I'm sure most of you probably know that the Pfizer vaccine for COVID, all of the research and the trials were done here at the University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics. And so we're very proud of all of the work that's been able to be done here. But we're doing obviously research in a variety of different specialty and primary care and sort of academic related topics and initiatives as well. And then obviously the last part is education. And so the education, Carver College of Medicine will sort of look a little bit about that. One thing that we always like to talk about are obviously rankings. Rankings are important because it really gives an opportunity for individual programs, individual specialties, individual research specific areas, an opportunity to be recognized for those. And so we're very proud of all of those. Obviously our program, which we'll talk about a little bit later, we are ranked as the #1 PA program in the US, which is something that we continue to take pride in. And it allows an opportunity for us to continue to attract top-notch students, both from the academic and the healthcare arena, and to allow them to be admitted into our program and continue the journey and get credentialed as a PA, and then go on to do wonderful things for the PA profession. So the Carver College of Medicine itself sits on the west side of campus. So if you're not familiar with the Iowa City area, there's a river that runs through campus. And on the east side is pretty much all undergraduate activities. And on the west side is where the health science campus sits. We are a large health science entity in the state, where in addition to the College of Medicine, we also have the College of Dentistry, the College of Nursing, College of Pharmacy, College of Public Health. Also, the law school sits on the west side of the river, and so it's really sort of the graduate and professional school hub or location for the institution. In addition, University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics sits on campus, and it is one of the nation's largest university-owned teaching hospitals in the US. And so that really provides a lot of opportunities for students in the academic programs or the educational programs within the Carver College of Medicine to have hands-on experiences throughout the entire time that they're on campus during their didactic and or their clinical experiences during their academic preparation. And then also on the west side, most athletic venues. And so if you're like myself that likes to attend a lot of those activities that are athletic related, all of them, so the football stadium, baseball, softball field, hockey, obviously Carver Hawkeye Basketball Arena. So all of those supporting venues sit on the west side of the river as well. So as I mentioned, Carver College of Medicine is the academic arm. Being a part of the Carver College of Medicine really allows the PA program tremendous opportunities to have resources available for our students to accomplish its mission. And so we have access to international renowned faculty and staff that are participating in a lot of wonderful research and or academic initiatives, not only here in the US, but across the world as well. We have state-of-the-art academic facilities for our students to have an opportunity to get their academic preparation and training. And then we also have state-of-the-art healthcare facilities that allow students to go into and get clinical experiences during their journey as well. And so we're very fortunate to be housed within the College of Medicine that falls under that University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinic umbrella. So this is a little bit about the PA program mission. And really the reason I put up mission statement is because as you, as students start to think about the PA profession, researching PA programs, it's really important that you make sure you know what the mission statement is at the PA programs that you're looking at, because you want to make sure that whatever you value or whatever you are looking for in life experiences, that they are in line with an institution that you're looking to apply to. And so mission statements are very important because it sort of tell you what is the institution looking for and maybe what is the institution focusing on as it relates to specific niches within healthcare. And so obviously for our program, we are going to recruit individuals that come from a diverse background, and diverse can be defined in a million different ways, whether that's gender identity, whether that's ethnic, whether that's geographic location, whether that's undergraduate degree or courses, whether that's healthcare experience. There's just a variety of different ways that we will define diversity. And so we look to identify and recruit individuals that come from a very rich, high quality, diverse background. And then what we're going to do is provide them knowledge, skills, and abilities during their academic and their clinical experiences on campus to encourage them to practice high quality, compassionate healthcare to diverse populations once they leave. And so diverse, we really are looking at underrepresented, we're looking at rural, and we're looking at sort of just other ways to define that. And so it's really important for our students to sort of keep that in mind, whether they're going to work directly in those specific areas, or if they're getting a job, sort of keeping that in mind for volunteer or service related activities as well, whether they're getting involved in a free mobile clinic within the areas where they're practicing healthcare, whether they're getting involved in organizations that may provide healthcare services to individuals in third world countries through volunteer organizations or mission trips. We just encourage our students to sort of keep that aspect in mind as they go on into the profession of providing healthcare as a PA. And so again, mission statements are important because some might talk about a specific area in healthcare that they focus on, a functional area with health. Is it primary care? Is it focused in specialty areas? Is it focused on research? And so mission statements can really provide an opportunity for you to see sort of if your values are aligned with program values, to make sure that the programs that you're applying to are a good fit for you as a student. So with that, I am going to check the Q&A session. I don't see anything opened as of yet. So again, continue to use that function or the chat function as well. And we can continue to provide answers to those questions. So seeing none, I'm going to move on. And now we're just going to talk about program admissions information. I will start by saying you're going to have a headache when we're done talking about all of this stuff. I completely understand that. I still have a headache, and I have coordinated the process for the program for the last 7 years. But I understand that it's very integral. I'm going to be throwing a lot of information at you. And so I will make sure that I leave my contact information for you in the chat prior to ending this, so that if you do have any questions moving forward, or once we're finished with today's presentation, you have the opportunity to ask those as well. So first thing we're going to look at is sort of admissions criteria. So these are the variables in a nutshell that we look at. And the way that I sort of explain this is I sort of use a house analogy. And so when you are looking at or thinking about going into or walking into a house, probably the best way, I do realize there are other ways to get in, but probably the easiest way to get into the house is to walk through the front door. And so when you think about the admissions process for PA programs, the academic variables that are listed on this slide are going to be the variables that get you into the house. They are going to be the most important variables, not only for our program, but for all PA programs that are out there, because we need to make sure that we are attracting students that are going to be able to handle the academic rigor of the program. And so the academic variables are still going to be the most important variables to think about. They're going to get you into the house. And then all of the other variables that are a part of the process are the things that you're able to see in the house. The walls, the windows, the furniture, the decor. It's those things that enhance your experience once you're able to get into the house. And so the academic variables, as you can see, there are a lot of things that programs are going to look at. So for our program, obviously you need to make sure that you have a bachelor's degree completed prior to applying to starting the program. Then we look at your academic performance in a variety of different ways. And so we look at grade point average in 2 ways. Students have to have an overall GPA of at least a 3.0. And then we look at your science GPA, and students need to either have a 3.2 overall science or a 3.2 in the last 40 hours of completed science-based courses. And the reason that we look at that is because that gives us a trend. It's usually the junior or senior year of an undergrad, or a student that's done post-bac work after an undergraduate degree, or they maybe decided to do a master's degree in a science-related discipline before deciding whether they want to go PA, NP, MD, PT, OT, Pharm, Dent. And so it's the most recent or the most current academic performance in upper level science-based courses, which is an indication to our program of the student's ability to be successful in our program. Obviously, there are going to be a certain number of prerequisite courses that you need to complete. One thing that students always find interesting is the actual number of science-based courses that you have to complete in order to apply to a health program in the sciences are actually very minimal. So PA, MD, Pharm, PT, Dent, the actual number of science courses you have to complete are actually very minimal. And so you don't necessarily have to major in a science. You have to make sure that you complete these science-based courses in biology, in chemistry, in statistical-based sciences, but you don't necessarily have to major in one of those areas, as long as you're able to build in the prerequisite courses that are required for your program. And so it's really important that if you're interested and want to continue on to become a PA, that you start to do research in the programs that you're interested in and understand what those prerequisite courses are. A lot of them are going to be very common: biology 1 and 2, anatomy, physiology, gen chem 1 and 2, organic chemistry, biochemistry, statistics. But some programs may have a little different requirements in some other areas. And so it's really important that you sort of look at those. And then you have to complete a professional exam. And so you may think that the completion of the ACT or the SAT may be your last time taking a professional exam. I am here to burst that bubble and disappoint you just a little bit, because students do have to submit a professional exam as part of the admissions process. For most programs, at our program, students can either submit the GRE or the MCAT. So academics, still the most important, and then all of those other things sort of enhance the application for students for the admissions process. Healthcare experience. As a PA student, we are the only healthcare graduate or professional program that requires students complete healthcare experience. All of those other programs, MD, PT, Pharm, Dent, OT, they suggest or recommend that you get experience in healthcare to understand what you're doing and if this is a good fit for you. PA programs require that you have documented healthcare experience, and each program is different. For us, it's 1,000 hours. And so you're going to want to try to decide what might you want to do to get some of those experiences. Do you want to do it while you're in high school? Do you want to do it while you're in undergrad? Do you want to take a couple years off after undergrad, get those experiences before you apply to graduate programs? There's a variety of different ways that you can get those experiences, but you either have to be working directly in healthcare, doing research, working directly with human subjects, or volunteering in some type of health capacity where you're providing some type of care or service to another human through that process. And then there are some additional requirements: personal statements, letters of recommendation, sort of just some other things that you want to do. Some tips that I tell students in some of these areas, particularly the personal statement. The personal statement is one of the ways that institutions can learn a lot about who you are as an individual. And so I'll talk about it at the end, but I also like to talk about it here as well. The one question that you need to ask yourself when you are done writing your personal statement and having the opportunity to review the personal statement, you need to ask yourself, am I the only person that can write this personal statement? If the answer is yes, then that is very unique to you, and it's going to allow an admissions committee to be able to learn or sort of pick you out from other individuals that are going through the process. And so you want to try to make sure that that experience is as unique as possible as you go through the process. And then there's just a little information about the application deadline. Opens in April. Our close date is October 1st. If you are looking to go into a PA program directly from undergrad, you are applying at the end of your junior year over the summer going into your senior year of an undergrad, because admissions is always a year in the future. And so that's something to keep in mind as you go through the process. The next chart, this is really confusing. I understand. Left side is the application review process. The right side is the review process. The only thing that I really want to highlight is we are in constant communication with individuals that are going through our application process, because if there's anything that we think that the student is missing, we give them an opportunity to make sure that they provide us with those missing variables so that their application can be complete. Completed applications, all applications are reviewed by me. I'm the only individual that reads every single application that comes through the process. Again, if anything's missing, we will have communication with you. If everything's complete, you then go to our admissions committee. At least 2 members of the admissions committee will read a student file, and they will make a decision at that point on whether the student will be placed in an interview hold or if the student will be placed in a denial situation after the admissions committee review. Then basically what happens is that then goes into the interview process side of things. And so everybody that's placed in the interview hold bucket comes back to my desk for a final review. And then what I do is I select individuals to bring to campus for an interview based on my initial review, based on the admissions committee members' review. And then again, we're looking at all of those variables for diversity to try to make sure that we're inviting a diverse group of individuals on campus to interview, sort of through that process. Students will go through the interview process and they will either be offered admission, they will either be denied admissions based on the interview process, or they'll be placed on the alternate list. And so the alternate list is the list that we select students from if a student declines our admissions or if a student changes their mind after they accept our admission. The alternate list is where we pull students from as we go through the process. So here are interview selection criteria. So again, all of those things that we look at. I want to stress that, again, academics is the most important. That gets you into the house, but there are a lot of variables within the academic piece of the pie. And then healthcare experience would be the next most important. And then all of those other things, work, volunteer, extracurricular, leadership opportunities, knowledge of the PA profession, either through your personal statement or other experiences, supporting documents such as letter of recommendation. All of those are sort of equally weighted. There is no magical formula. It is not an easy process to select individuals that apply to our program to invite them to interview or to select them for admission, but it is something that we do every day. And so I always tell students, if you have questions, you stay in contact with somebody like myself because I am heavily involved in the process. And the more I remember a student or understand their journey or where they've come from and their passion for PA or for the University of Iowa may help during some of the selection processes as you move forward. For our interview right now, we do a re-review of all of the individuals that are selected for an interview. We do a re-review. Everybody on the admissions committee does a re-review of their file. And we assign individual scores and we add those up for 50% of the score. And then they go through our interview process, which is the multi-mini interview process. And then the collective score from the individuals that are involved in interviewing is the second half, the score at this time. This, if I'm being completely honest, is the one thing that I still do not like about our process. It's the one thing that I actually haven't been able to change since I started. I've changed many things over the last 7 years working with the admissions committee. I would like this to be about 30 to 35% pre-screen and 65 to 70% interview. It's my philosophy that if we're selecting individuals to interview, we better be confident that they're going to be able to handle our program academically. And so we really now need to put a little bit more weight on the interview process and how these individuals are answering our questions. How are they able to talk about their experiences? How are they able to talk about what they've learned from those experiences? How those experiences are going to make them a good PA. But we're still here at 50-50. So we'll see. It may change by the time some of you are going through the process. It may not. So hopefully we make some changes to that process. So here's what our application numbers have looked like over the last 7 or 8 years. We were trending upward. Then we made some changes in admissions criteria. We closed our application a month earlier than what we've done in the past. And so those went down a little bit. And now we're actually starting to trend upward. In 1920 and 2021, we actually had the exact same number of applicants that applied to our program, which was rather interesting, sort of through the process. And so we hover between around 850 to 860 applicants to our program. At this point, we will interview between 120 to 150, and we will admit 25 students. And so if you do math, if you look at the number of individuals that apply to the number of individuals that we interview, and the number of individuals that we interview to the number of individuals that we admit, our percentages or our ratios are right in line with the national average for PA programs. And so we don't anticipate making any major changes to our process or our criteria anytime soon because we're in line with those national numbers at this point. So here's what our class that will be starting in August looks like. So we have a fully admitted class. We've had 25 students that have stayed steady for about 3 weeks now, which is a good feeling for me through the process. And so I ran some numbers, and this is what it looks like. PA as a profession is very female dominated. National average is 70% female, 30% male. And so we tend to be a little bit more 60-40, 55-45 when it comes to gender. Age, you will see, is a little bit older than an MD program, a PT program, a dental program, because a lot of times our students take 1 or 2 or more gap years to get experience, to retake courses, to take courses because they may have changed their academic journey a little bit later. So we tend to be a little bit older in terms of age. Residency, majority of our students are out of state, and they have been out of state. I don't think that there is a single year in the 50-year history of the program where we've had more students that have come from Iowa than outside of Iowa through that. As you can see, we talked a lot about minimum requirements, but when you look at those GPAs, when you look at those test scores, you can see that academically, it's a very strong cohort of students. And so that's why, again, those academic variables are still going to be the most important. And you're going to want to make sure that you're doing everything to be successful in those areas. And then healthcare experience and research, we have to report. Research hours are not required as part of our process, but we have to report for some national grants. So we always report healthcare experience. So, and this is based on the 25 students that are scheduled to start the program in August. So, so with that, I'm going to just wrap up with a couple things. Why choose Iowa? Why choose Iowa for undergrad? Why choose Iowa for PA? And then wrap up with some tips for you all. If you are looking to select an undergraduate institution, again, the University of Iowa actually is the largest feeder school for our students in the PA program. Around 20 to 25% of our students each year will have done undergraduate or graduate coursework at the University of Iowa. And so it still is the largest. Again, if you think of numbers, that's 4 to 5 students because we have a small base of students, but it is still the largest feeder school for us. We're the only academic medical center. You have an opportunity to specialize in a lot of different areas, whether it's experience, whether it's student clubs, whether it's organizations, whether it's volunteer, whether it's job centering, whether it's research. You have those experiences at your fingertips as an undergraduate student, and it's only going to enhance your application when you go through the process. And again, being in part of the health science campus, there are other opportunities for you to get knowledge in healthcare to make a decision as to what fit or what route might be best for you. And so it allows you to understand that healthcare is about collaboration and it's not about competition. We always tell our students the most difficult part or the most competitive part is getting into the program. Once you're in the program, it is very much a collaborative nature and an opportunity to work with your fellow PA students, your MD students, or other healthcare students at the graduate level. And then why us for a program? A couple of things. Again, the national rankings, I always tell students, take it as a grain of salt. It's a little bit of a popularity contest where basically those rankings are done by all of the program directors of PA programs, rank the other programs. And so it is a little bit of a popularity contest. However, when you're a #1 ranked program, you're going to tell people that you're a #1 ranked program because that means that our faculty are well known, our students are well known, our academic rigor, clinical experiences, student success on getting certified, getting jobs, all of those variables are very well known across the country. And so that's definitely good. We're an integrated curriculum. So we're the only PA program where the PA and the MD, the medical students, do the exact same thing at the same time with each other. We're the only integrated PA program in the US. And so there's no difference between what a PA student learns and does than what a medical student learns and does throughout their time on campus. And so that makes us very popular. for students going through the selection process as well. And then our learning communities is an opportunity for students to provide or find activities outside of the classroom to get involved, to take leadership roles, to get involved in community service, philanthropic activities, to learn about just a variety of different things that will enhance your growth as a student, but will provide you knowledge, skills, and abilities to be a successful healthcare practitioner once you leave us. And so lastly, I will end with tips for success. Again, I cannot reiterate the importance to focus on academics. It is the most important thing. And so you're going to want to choose courses that challenge you. You're going to want to do well in those courses. And you're going to want to make sure that you get as many resources as you can to be successful in your academic journey and preparation in those professional exams. Then you're going to want to focus on healthcare. What are some things that you want to do? It's part of your healthcare experience. How do you want to do them? But most important, what are you learning about yourself and how it's going to help you be a good healthcare practitioner? The how and the why of those experiences are going to be important. And so I tell students, when you are working in your healthcare experiences or any of your other activities, because the last thing you want to do is to focus on how you want to set yourself apart. So do you want to become, get actively involved in volunteering and doing community service? Do you want to do research as a way to enhance your application? Do you want to find a mentor, be a mentor? Do you want to take leadership activities or experiences in clubs and organizations? Do you want to be involved in service trips? No matter what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what you're learning about yourself is important. And so I tell students, after every experience that you're doing outside of the classroom, at the end of the day, journal, write something about what you did, what did you learn, how might that help you be a better healthcare practitioner, because that is where you're going to find stuff to provide to your individuals that give you letters of recommendation. It may turn into a topic for your personal statement. It may allow you to answer some questions if any programs have a supplemental application. We don't, but other programs might. And so that's just going to help you sort of through that process. So with that, I am finished. So what I'm going to do is look at our questions here. There's one. As a high school student, what classes should I take? Well, I can answer that in two different ways. Number one, as a high school student, you have to take a certain amount of classes in each of the disciplines in education, so take those. If you are looking to take college level courses as a student, you may want to focus on, if you're going to take any of the science-based courses, I would say your general biology 1 and 2, your general chemistry 1 and 2, possibly anatomy and physiology. Otherwise, I would focus on your social science, your fine and performing arts, your foreign language, if you're doing any type of PSEO coursework or college credit while in high school, or if you have an opportunity to take an AP exam, you're going to want to focus on maybe some of those and save those upper level science courses at a 4-year institution, because most programs are going to want to see those done as well. So that would be my advice. Is it competitive to volunteer in areas that aren't healthcare field as well? You know, I would say any type of volunteer experience, any type of leadership experience, whether it's healthcare related or non-healthcare related. Again, why did you choose to do those and what did you learn? That narrative is what's important, not necessarily the experience. When is a good time to start healthcare hours? Really anytime. For our program, we do allow experiences in high school to count as healthcare experiences. It may be different at other programs, but we do allow that. And so if you want to go and get certified as a phlebotomist, an EMT, you know, patient tech, any of those things, you can go ahead and do that and start working so that you may not have to work as much through your undergrad career or during the summer. So. Most volunteer experiences will give 25% of the experiences unless you're working directly with individuals in a healthcare setting. And so if you're stocking shelves, if you're answering the phones, if you're doing stuff like that, we'll give you 25% of those hours in a healthcare setting. But if you're doing a little bit more hands-on experience, we would allow you to do that. So good questions. So, oh my, there's more. Yes, anything CNA related is 100%, whether you're certified or not. As long as you're a CNA, we would give you 100% of those hours. Yes, the number of students are fixed at 25, no more, no less. Recommended majors, you can major in anything that you want as long as you meet the prerequisite courses and are doing strong in your science-based courses. We had a student that graduated in our class of 20. His undergraduate degree was theater. He knew he wanted to go into healthcare based on family experiences. And so he went and spent a couple years getting his prerequisite courses done. Maybe theater helped him in his interview, I don't know, but he got here, he graduated, and he's just found a job. So, so that was one of the unique majors I can remember. So.
My preceptor on my current rotation was a violin major and then just got her prereqs and had a biology minor and went to med school with that. So
yeah, I think what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to have each of the students introduce themselves. And students, what I want you to do is who you are, where did you come from, where did you do undergrad or graduate work, what did you do for healthcare experiences, so we'll start with Megan. We'll have Megan go first.
All right, I'm Megan Mathis. I'm originally from Fort Dodge, Iowa. I did my undergrad work at Grinnell College in Grinnell, Iowa. And then I also did a master's in public health here at the University of Iowa. I did the majority of my patient care hours at ChildServe in Iowa City. If you're not familiar with that, it's working with kiddos with disabilities. And then I also did a little bit of work at the Center for Disabilities and Development here at the university as well.
Awesome. Annika, you're next.
my name is Annika. I'm originally from Ames, Iowa. I went to Luther College in Decorah, Iowa for undergrad, and I worked at the local hospital in Decorah as a phlebotomist to get my hours.
Alex.
Yeah, my name's Alex. I'm from north suburb of Chicago. It's called Mundelein, Illinois, if anyone's heard of that. I did my undergrad work at the University of Iowa, and then for patient care experience, I was a CNA first, and then I became a medical assistant after that.
So now it's your chance to ask questions. So I have to be completely honest. I don't think I've ever coordinated something in this setting. Can the participants unmute themselves and ask questions, or is it only through chat? I should know, but since we're almost 2 years into a pandemic, but.
I can only use the chat.
Okay, perfect. So students, start putting it in the chat and I'll read them and have the students answer it. Students, let's start while they are thinking of some questions. What's maybe one thing that you wish you had known before you decided to go the PA route? Or if you decided to go to the PA route right away, what were some, maybe one piece of advice that you wish you had known?
For me, I just didn't really know a whole lot about the PA route in my undergrad experience. I was thinking med school. And then once I learned about the PA route, I decided it was the best for me. But since I didn't know about it before, I didn't have any of that healthcare experience. So I ended up taking 2 gap years, which is fine. I think it really helped me as an applicant and helped me grow as a person and learn that this was right for me. But it would have been nice to know about that before.
I'll go next. Yeah, I can't recall of anything that I wish I kind of would have known. I worked closely with a nurse practitioner when I was a kid, and she kind of introduced me to the PA profession. So kind of from high school, I kind of knew this is what I wanted to do. The one thing that you should definitely, at least if you're in high school, is look where and start thinking about where you're going to get these hours, because they do creep up on you. And some people like to have no transition. Other people like to have a transition between undergrad and grad school. I was one of the people that wanted to go directly. But I mean, those hours, it's a pretty good amount, and you're going to have to devote some time to getting them. So have a plan in place, at least before you start undergraduate, would be my piece of advice.
I think that would be my advice too, is I worked like all through college and that was fine. But it was hard sometimes. And I didn't take a gap year at all because I met my hours in college. But sometimes I do wonder if I like should have taken a gap year and maybe like relax a little bit more in college with that, or started getting my hours earlier, like in high school. But I didn't know at that point that I needed patient care hours. So.
Excellent. Yeah, we're still trickling in, so let me think of another question. So when you were going through and researching programs, was there anything particular that you guys were looking at, or maybe what made you apply to the university? What was it about our program that maybe stood out to you?
I can go first on this. My mom graduated from Iowa PA program in 1994, I think, or 92 maybe. And so I've always known about the PA profession, and I just was really unique in that I was like, if I don't go to Iowa, I'm going to take a gap year and figure something else out. So I only applied to Iowa because I just kind of knew this is where I was like, and I talked about that in my essay. I was like, this is kind of, I just know this is where I'm meant to end up. So.
Yeah, I applied here primarily because one, I live like 3 hours away from where the school is, so I knew, for me at least, staying home and close to my family was a big part of my decision. I wanted to be able to go back and forth if I had to. And another thing to mention was that I went to undergrad here. I was familiar with the campus. I was familiar with the school. I was familiar with the med school. I had been volunteering in the hospital, and just from that, I got good vibes just doing that the whole time, and I knew that's where I wanted to go. So it was at the top of my list, and that was where the bar was set for me, at least.
The number one ranking was definitely a huge factor for me. I also had a friend who went here before and she really loved it and raved about the experience, so that helped. And then I also really liked the fact that we were integrated with the med students, and then being from Iowa, it was nice to stay close to home.
So there's a question in the chat, and so we're going to approach this we're going to approach this two ways. The question is when did you decide what you were going to specialize in? So my question to you three: have you decided, or are you leaning towards a particular area? So background for these students: they are in their second quarter, so like their third or fourth experience during their clinical year. So they've done the year and a half of didactic coursework. And then they all started their clinical experiences in February of this year. So do any of you have a particular area that you think you may want to go into at this point, or what's that journey been like for you guys thus far?
For me, I always knew that I wanted to do peds. That's what I did my healthcare experience in. And I knew that I loved working with kids. So really I'm open to anything in peds. So far I've done like a general peds rotation. Currently I'm doing adolescent psych, but I also did a peds hematology and oncology rotation. And I was not expecting to love that as much as I did, but I absolutely love that. But honestly, anything in pediatrics, I'd be happy.
Yeah, my before I started my rotations, my mind was kind of like, okay, it's either going to be like family med, something that encompasses a little bit of every specialty, or something particular, like very specialized. So nothing really in the middle. And then I got into orthopedic surgery, and the first week was it was rough, and then the second week was better, and then by the third week I was like, I really like this, and then by the fourth week I was like, oh, this is a lot, this is a lot of fun. So then at that point I was like, okay, orthopedics, that sounds like it's going to be the thing. And then I got into the emergency room, and I went from seeing 3 cases a day to 35 patients a day, and it was stimulating to say the least. So I don't know, right now I'm still open to anything, but I haven't had a rotation I haven't liked.
I am still deciding. I have no idea right now. I'm saying open to every experience. I think with every rotation, you learn a little bit about like what you want from a clinic practice and what you want to do, how you want your clinic or your practice to look. So it's been helpful, but I'm in internal medicine right now, and I kind of thought I was going to come in and just like love it. I thought this was going to be the thing for me. I'm finding out it's maybe not my favorite, maybe not where I want to end up, but it's like I'm still learning a lot every day, and it's still been really, really good experience. And it's good that I know where I should like to move my attention away from that maybe. So.
And just sort of as a follow-up to that, so all of the students in PA programs will have experiences in clinical rotations in 7 core areas. So family medicine, internal medicine, emergency medicine, general surgery, peds, psychiatry, and women's health. So everybody will get a 4 to 6 week rotation in each of those 7 core areas. And then for our program, we require our students to do an additional 4 week in family medicine. And so they'll get 8 total weeks in family medicine through 2 separate or 1 longitudinal experience through that. And then depending on whether they choose 2 or 4 week elective rotations, they may have an opportunity to do 2 for different elective experiences in a specialty area such as orthopedics or oncology or I'm trying to think, otolaryngology, sort of just different areas that they, may have interest in to get some specifics. But as a PA, one of the most popular reasons why individuals are going the PA route is because they do have the opportunity to ebb and flow in between any functional area of health without having to get additional certifications or education in the professional world. So they can work family medicine for 5 years, then go to orthopedic for 7 years, then can go to psych and finish their career in psych without having to do a fellowship or a residency or any type of coursework or degree. It's just a matter of applying and getting accepted into positions like that. And so the flexibility in functional areas is an opportunity or a popular reason. So one question in the chat is can you talk about how long you study each day? And it may look different between your academic experiences and your clinical experiences, but. And they all are muted, so they never study.
In didactic year, I studied a lot. I think your first semester, fall semester, and then the beginning of your spring semester were hard, and they were like kind of overwhelming because you just don't know what to expect. It kind of feels like they always say it's like someone opens a fire hydrant and tells you to take a drink. And I think that's a pretty good analogy, but you don't really know what it's like till you start doing it. So I studied a lot, like all day, but still found time to like, work out or like see my friends or do fun things on the weekends. And like, it wasn't like, I still had like a life. And then with clinicals, it's interesting because you do go home at like, you work typically like an average like 8-hour clinic day or something. You kind of might study in between patients, but you're also learning from your patients, and then you'll go home and maybe study what you saw that day or what you're going to see the next day. So it's just a different kind of learning because you're still studying a lot, but it's more hands-on. It feels more fun to me than it did from didactic, like studying out of a textbook. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in, didactic curriculum, you do study a lot. I mean, that's just a part of the gig. You're going to study a lot, but that's not to say that's the only thing you do. You still get to hang out with your friends. You still get to hang out with your classmates, and you still get to do the things that you like to do before you started school. Are you going to have to change your priorities a little bit if you weren't the one to study all the time? Maybe, and maybe it might be a little bit of culture shock. I know it was for me. And then you find a balance pretty easily. And then once you get into like clinical years, I mean, for me, really, it's dependent on the rotation that I'm in. If you're in like something like family medicine where you have only a month to learn everything, it seems like you're going to be studying a lot more than if you were in somewhere as, very specific. You were doing knee surgeries 4 weeks, every time. And that's what you're being tested on. So it just depends.
Yeah, to go off that right now for my psych rotation, I might study like a max of an hour a night when I get home compared to like didactic year, I'd be studying several hours every night. But like they mentioned, you do find a way to have a good balance. Like I still worked out almost every day and still got to see my family. So there's definitely a good balance. It's studying a lot, but it's not unmanageable.
So speaking of balance, let's go back a few years. How did you find balance between getting healthcare experience and doing well academically in undergrad, if you had to do that experience?
For my undergrad experience, I was a phlebotomist at a hospital and I worked PRN. So I would often pick up maybe like some weeks I wouldn't work at all. And other weeks I would be like someone would go on vacation and I would maybe work like 20 to 30 hours a week or something and pick up a Saturday and stuff like that. So it was hard to manage that at times, but it was just like you have to kind of prioritize and like, really focus on just being like, okay, schoolwork and, my actual work and like kind of almost triaging that and being like, what can I push to the weekend when I have more time or what can I put off until Sunday? But it again, like it was manageable because there were other weeks where I was only working maybe 5 hours. So that was just my experience. So I think some people had more set hours.
Yeah, so when I was an undergrad, at least my last years, I was working mostly as a CNA and I had a part-time job. So I was working, I don't know, 25 hours a week as well as going to school and taking the credits that. And really you have to just do it. You just, you start off thinking, okay, this is how much time I have to study and this is how much time I have to work. And then you see how do they balance one another. If you're all of a sudden not doing so well academically, then you know that maybe in addition to maybe work and other things, you have to let the gas pedal off, that kind of stuff, and start working more on your academics. It's just like anything. You get in there, you try, you fail, you make a new plan and you try again.
Yeah, and in terms of that, I mean, I've been working with college students in a variety of different journeys and points in their career all the time. And if I could give any piece of advice to high school students preparing to go into college, it is understanding the importance of and mastering the concept of time management. I know this is like a lofty concept, but you really need to do and become good at managing your time and understanding, as Annika said, prioritizing what's important. In some weeks, academics may be the most important thing that you need to concentrate on. And you have got to push that significant other or family members or extracurricular activities, to the side. Obviously, one thing that I would highly encourage that you do every day is some type of exercise and or stress relief activity that's positive. Students can find negative ways to deal with stress, through that process. And so, just making sure that you use some type of calendaring system or some type of prioritization organization and schedule those things, including naps. I tell students, you can take a nap, but you need to schedule a nap. And so have a start and have an end time to that nap. Set that alarm, make sure that you get up so that you're not sleeping, all hours, sort of through that process. And so naps are important. Schedule naps into your daily life, but that would be my piece of advice. So specific question here, and I think Megan, you had mentioned that you've done or are in peds. Is it difficult to handle? I will assume maybe does it get emotional working with the little ones in certain cases?
I haven't found it too difficult to handle yet. I did have a lot of experience with kids and I really want to work with kids. So I think if you aren't maybe so excited about working with kids, it can definitely be difficult to handle. In my hem-onc rotation, I was really, really lucky that I only saw like kids that were doing really well with their cancer or were in remission. I didn't see a lot of kids that weren't doing very well, so that made it easier. Right now I'm on adolescent inpatient psych, and that is a little bit more difficult for me. We do have a lot of kids with like suicidal ideation, and I don't know, I do worry about them a little bit more, but I think you find your coping strategies and ways to balance that like you would anything else.
Thank you. There's another question in here about working during your first year of the program. So I can answer that from an administrative perspective. We highly, highly, highly encourage our students not to work while they're in the program. Can we tell them that they can't work? No. But I would say, I don't know, did any of you work PRN or evening weekend? Yeah. I would say 99.9% of our students will not work during their time in the program. It is a very rigorous program. It's important that they focus on that. Again, we may have a student, once every couple of years that again may choose to maybe do a PRN and do, maybe evening work or maybe on the weekends once a month or something. But I would say that it's very rare that students work during their time in our program. Great questions. Keep them coming. We have a couple of more minutes. If they're not, I would finish with one last question, and we sort of kind of hit on it, but there are no others. We'll end with one last thing. And students, what is your one piece of advice that you would give these students, high school audience, one piece of advice that you would give them to be successful in becoming a PA?
I mean, there's a ton of things that you could say, right? And you're just thinking about what's the best thing. But one thing that really helped me, and I actually heard it from, somebody not even studying medicine, because it applies to everything, is if you really want to do something, you need to make a plan. You need to make a plan, and it's never too early to make a plan. And then once you make a plan, set individual goals, little goals along the way, so that you know that you're making progress. It keeps yourself accountable, and eventually you get to where you're going.
I know you guys are high school students, so like actually applying to PA school is a ways in the future, but I have, I know some people who are applying right now, and like, just one of the things that I think is important is just like, be yourself, be like, let your personality come through in your essay. When you go to jobs and like stuff, and like when you start making those like healthcare connections, just like be yourself and don't be afraid to like ask for opportunities too. If you are a CNA and you work with a, PA on your floor and you're like, hey, could I shadow you for a day? Or if you work with a doctor who is in a field that you think you might be interested, just ask. Usually people are like so open to that and so don't mind that. So, just kind of like ask for opportunities and then just start making those connections. And then when you apply for your interview and like you go for your interview, it might be nerve-wracking, but just like be yourself and just again, like form those personal connections. And that's always a great thing it'll get you really far.
When you're thinking about your like volunteer and work experience and what you want to do to set yourself apart from other applicants, make sure you stay true to yourself and you're doing things that are really important to you. Like don't volunteer somewhere just because it's volunteer hours. It's not going to help you at all, and it's not going to benefit you in your application if you do it that way. Do something that you're passionate about and it'll get you a lot farther.
Excellent. And I will wrap up by giving my piece of advice that I always give to students is it is important that you are in charge of this process, and that you understand that the ultimate success rests on your shoulders. There are lots of individuals that are here to help you be successful in the journey, but ultimately it comes down to you. You seeking out activities, you being successful academically, you completing the application process, you going through the interview process. And so start to understand who you are, what you want, and then similar to what Alex mentioned, just going out and doing it, and then using the resources. It's important for you to use the resources that you have to help you, be successful, but understanding who you are and how these experiences are shaping you and helping you are things that are definitely gonna come out in an application or an interview process for whatever road or journey that you continue on, whether it's PA or some other healthcare profession or something completely different. The genuine you is what's important and what we look for on a regular basis through our process. So with that, I think we are right at 5 o'clock. So I put my email address in the chat. So please feel free to take that down. And if you have any questions about our program moving forward, you are more than welcome to shoot me an email at any time. I want to thank you to the students. It's good to see your faces since you aren't on campus as much anymore. Good to see that you're all doing well. So I want to thank you guys for your time because I know it's a busy time as well. So thank you for spending the past hour with us. With that, we are finished.